You are listening to Julia's Trucking Cafe News Hour. And welcome to Julia's Trucking Cafe Trucking News Hour. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm so happy that you're here and that you want to listen to the trucking news. As always, I have lots of news to get to, so let's get right to it. I'm off to spend time with my one sister up in my hometown in central Wisconsin, so decided to hit y'all with another podcast. As always, I have lots of news to get to, so let's get right to it. In this story, a tight U-turn ruptures a truck's fuel tank. In the picture, you could see it was a day cab with a load of lumber. He tried to jump a small median that was in between a 4-lane, and it was concrete on each side with grass in the middle, like a curb, and hit it too hard and ruptured his tank. In our next story, several were injured after a crash sends a semi skidding off of an overpass. Multiple people were injured in a crash between a semi-truck and a car in Florida. This accident happened on October 5th on Interstate 95 around Jacksonville, Florida. According to the local news, the semi-truck and car were traveling south along I-95 just before 8th Street when they collided. The force of the impact sent the semi-truck plummeting off of the overpass and down a 20-foot embankment, separating the tractor from the trailer. The Jacksonville Fire and Rescue Department reported that one person had to be extracted from their vehicle and multiple people were transported to the hospital with injuries. The details surrounding their conditions and identities were not released at the time of this article was written. And up next, officials made the largest meth seizure in Arizona port history. Officials discovered a record-breaking amount of meth hidden inside a semi-truck hauling produce. This incident occurred on Friday, October 2nd at the port of Nogales near Tucson, Arizona, where the truck was attempting to enter the U.S. from Mexico. According to Border Patrol officials, they were inspecting the back of the trailer and noticed, quote, anomalies on the floor amongst the load of bell peppers, cucumbers, and pickles. Upon further investigation, the officers discovered a custom compartment in the floor hiding nearly 650 packages of illegal drugs, including 800 pounds of meth and 800 pounds of meth and 9 pounds of fentanyl. Officers say that approximate value of the drugs is nearly $2 million. Quote, this is an enormous amount of very dangerous hard narcotics that Nogales cargo officers prevented from reaching communities throughout the U.S. And up in this story, a driver is flown to the hospital after hauling a wind turbine rolls over. In other words, he laid it over and rolls over, and it's a mangled mess. The truck driver was flown to the hospital after his truck overturned while hauling wind turbine equipment. This happened October 3rd at 8 a.m. outside of Alice, Texas. According to the local news, a tractor trailer was hauling the wind turbine equipment on State Highway 359 and State Highway 44 when it overturned, smashing the cab of the truck. The truck driver had to be extracted from the vehicle and was quickly life-flighted to a nearby hospital. The Department of Public Safety in Texas described the driver's injuries as non-life-threatening. The exact cause of the crash was unknown at the time of the writing of this article. And in this story, a 25-year-old truck driver was killed while helping a co-driver at a loading dock. See, this is the stuff that's not reported that you really don't hear about. A truck driver lost his life during an incident at New York loading dock. This happened October 2nd in Germantown, New York, around 1 o'clock in the afternoon. New York State Police say they were dispatched to Taconic Biosciences for a report of a serious accident. Troopers later determined that truck driver Matthew Austin, 25, was assisting his co-worker with loading at the Taconic Biosciences loading dock when the truck rolled backwards for unknown reasons, pinning Mr. Austin between the trailer and the loading dock. Why he was in between the trailer and the loading dock, I have no idea. Paramedics arrived on the scene to administer medical attention and Mr. Austin was airlifted to a nearby hospital. He later died from his injuries. The state police say that the investigation and contributing factors remain ongoing. Austin's obituary highlighted his newfound passion for trucking. In recent years, he found a new love in truck driving, being able to travel across the beautiful country that he loved. He loved finding the little out-of-the-way treasures along with the amazing scenic views. He also enjoyed talking about his adventures on the road after every trip. I guess with his inexperience, never get behind a trailer when you're close to a rolling dock, a loading dock, where the brakes could release or anything like that. You always pull away from the dock if you're on a flatbed or anything like that. Most of the times they don't even do that unless I don't know. I just don't know the circumstances of this case. In this story, a woman is sentenced for a 7-year com data scheme to defraud the Indiana Trucking Company. I reported on this a few months back. Indiana woman was sentenced to prison and ordered to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars in restitution after a years-long scheme to defraud her employer. On October 6th, 52-year-old Tracy Cox was sentenced to 24 months in prison and was ordered to pay $381,759 in restitution, according to U.S. Attorney's Office in the Northern District of Indiana. Cox formerly worked in accounts payable for Gary, Indiana-based trucking company Corico Inc. According to court documents, between May of 2011 and July of 2018, Ms. Cox used her position at a Gary, Indiana trucking company to defraud them. She diverted over $381,759 for her own use by creating approximately 400 unauthorized transfers. She devised a scheme in which she entered the payment system and authorized a series of check numbers to make them available for use by truck drivers. She then obtained the authorization codes for the checks, made them payable to herself, and filled in the dollar amount or obtained a cash advance. To cover her scheme, Ms. Cox altered years of bank statements to hide the true balances. Comdata reportedly contacted the company in July of 2018 to inform the company of the fraudulent transactions. When company leaders confronted her, she left and never returned. Quote, when an employee takes advantage of an employer's trust to steal, the consequences can have a trickle-down effect for the employer and other employees, costing jobs and causing economic hardship, said the U.S. Attorney, Mr. Kirsch. My office is dedicated to prosecuting fraud schemes like this and will continuously work with our law enforcement on these investigations. Yeah, that's pretty hard up if you need money that bad that they're going to trust you with the books and then you're going to turn around and embezzle like that. And a trucker perishes after plunging off a Birmingham interstate. Authorities in Alabama say that a truck driver did not survive after a crash sent his vehicle falling off an interstate ramp onto the roadway below. The crash occurred Tuesday, October 6th in Birmingham. Investigators say that 59-year-old truck driver Charles Pierce was hauling a load of automobiles on I-65 South when a multi-vehicle crash caused his vehicle to careen off of a I-65 exit ramp, falling about 25 feet onto I-59-20 north below. Pierce died at the scene. One other person was transported to the hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. The fatal crash remains under investigation. Now that intersection there, if you've never been in Birmingham, because I only live about 3-4 hours away from there, that is what I call a spaghetti ball. And 65, 59, and 20 all converge right in the center of Birmingham. And it gets to be a cluster. And you really need to slow down through there, get your damn lead out of your shoe, and always keep your eyes 15 seconds ahead. I'll be looking down at your dash, put your phone down, I'll be talking to the wife or anything, and look 15 seconds ahead to see what the heck is coming up. You start seeing brake lights, slow the hell down. These trucks don't stop on a frickin' dime. Those car haulers are heavy. You need to just slow the hell down. Excuse me. Got a frog in my throat, and I'm recording this about 5:30 in the morning. And up next, a canine officer sniffs out $500,000 in cocaine hidden in a truck cab during a routine traffic stop. A young truck driver has been arrested after a police officer and their canine discovered 20 kilos of cocaine inside the cab of his truck. This happened October 2nd in Barstow. According to the police department, canine officer Juan Zapata initially pulled over the semi-truck driver, driven by 25-year-old Mikael Lang Bolton, for a vehicle violation at the northbound Interstate 15 off-ramp. As Zapata and another officer conducted the inspection, they noted that Bolton seemed extremely nervous. Well, that's a dead giveaway. While an officer was writing Bolton a citation for the vehicle code violation, Officer Zapata and his canine, Logan, sniffed the exterior of Bolton's vehicle. As canine Logan sniffed the passenger side, he was alerted on that area, which indicates the presence of illegal drugs. After the dog alerted to the presence of the drugs, Zapata conducted a search of the truck cab and discovered a duffel bag containing 20 vacuum-sealed packages of what appeared to be cocaine. Zapata then conducted a field test on the spot, which indicated that the substance was in fact cocaine. The duffel bag contained a total of 20 kilos of cocaine with an estimated street value of $500,000. Bolton was arrested and booked in the San Bernardino jail in Barstow for possession of controlled substance for sale and transportation of a controlled substance. Bolton's bail was set as $2,050,000 and is scheduled for arraignment. They don't play. Don't try to think you're going to make a bunch of money, ton of money out here doing that shit, because you'll get busted every time. And a truck driver wanted by police for a nationwide grooming of young girls. Police are searching for a truck driver accused of a nationwide attempt to groom and seduce young girls through the use of social media. 26-year-old Dmitry Zinev is wanted by Illinois State Police, Jonesboro Police, and Union County State Attorney's Office for 3 inappropriate interactions with underage girls in Union County, Illinois. But officials say that there may be more victims throughout the country. I'm not sure what his nationality is, but he's been accused of picking his victims online through the use of social media apps such as Snapchat. He is said to have used the app's map feature to determine the victim's location, allowing him to show up where they are at unexpectedly. Quote, in this particular case, the defendant had used the Snapchat map to track down some of her victims to show up where they are at unexpectedly, unannounced, simply by opening Snapchat and showing they're right here. He seems to be a nationwide thing. He has ties to other states. We do believe it's kind of a personal belief that he has other victims out there, may even be victims in the southern Illinois area. He's facing 5 counts of child pornography, indecent solicitation of a minor, 2 counts of traveling to meet minor, and 2 counts of grooming. However, truck driver has not yet been taken into custody as police are having trouble tracking him down. Officials say he's fluent in Russian and possibly German. And in this next article, a trucker is hurt after a broad daylight shooting on a Memphis interstate. Truck driver survived an interstate shooting in Memphis. This happened October 7th. The truck driver told police he had been shot by a person in a silver Nissan Maxima while he was driving on I-240 westbound between Getwell and Lamar. The truck driver was taken to the hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. No suspects were in custody at the time. The police blocked all lanes of the interstate while looking for evidence, but all lanes then reopened later that afternoon. If you have any information on the shooting, you could call Crime Stoppers at 901-528-CASH. That's 901-528-CASH. In this story, a Maserati rear-ends a semi-truck and kills 3 people. 3 men are dead after crashing their Maserati sedan into the back of a Freightliner semi-truck. This happened October 6th around Sturgis, South Dakota. According to the local news, 21-year-old man was driving a 2015 Maserati sports sedan along Interstate 90 when it slammed into the back of the Freightliner Cascadia semi. The motorist and his 2 passengers, a 22-year-old man and a 55-year-old man, were all pronounced dead at the scene. He must have been flying. 77-year-old truck driver and his 74-year-old female passenger were uninjured. He literally bent the ICC bumper, the 2 supports for the ICC bumper. He curled it up underneath the back tires of the trailer. He hit that truck that hard, according to these photos in this article, which you can view for yourself when you go to juliastrucketcafe.com. Look under the cafe menu, go to podcast, or else you'll see the show notes. I think it's just under show notes. I never could remember because I'm kind of organizing stuff on the website, so I never know where I put it. But I believe it's just under show notes. Cafe menu, scroll down to show notes, and you can pull up any article, and this will be episode 103. And in this story, a passenger is killed after a bus crosses into the path of an oncoming semi-truck. A bus passenger was killed after the bus swerved into the path of an oncoming semi-truck. This accident occurred October 6th in Indiana. According to the local news, the bus was traveling west along Highway 24 when, for unknown reasons, it crossed the center line into the path of an oncoming semi-truck. Excuse me. The truck was unable to avoid a collision with the swerving bus, and the 2 vehicles collided head-on, killing 1 passenger on the bus and injuring several others. While waiting for emergency personnel to arrive, 1 motorist who works as a nurse pulled over to offer medical assistance. She wanted to remain anonymous. 1 emergency responders arrived. The bus driver was airlifted with serious injuries, while 2 other bus passengers were driven to a nearby hospital, and their conditions were unknown. The truck driver was uninjured in the accident. And up next, feds find more than commodes hidden in truckload of toilets. They'll try anything, won't they? Officers with U.S. Customs and Border Protection encountered a shipment of toilets that consisted of more than commodes during a recent commercial border crossing attempt in Texas. This drug bust occurred October 2nd at the World Trade Bridge in Laredo. So for everyone that comes across, there's 15 or, hundreds more behind it. A semi-truck hauling a load of toilets was attempting to cross into U.S. from Mexico when it was stopped for an inspection using a canine unit and X-ray. I always say radar, but it's X-ray. Officers discovered 1,017 packages containing 13,744 pounds of marijuana hidden within the shipment of toilets. The estimated street value of the pot is $2,748,404. The drugs were seized by Border Patrol, and the case was handed over to U.S. Immigration and Homeland Security investigations for further investigations. And in this story, teenagers lead police on a lengthy pursuit in a stolen semi-truck. Two teenagers led police on a long pursuit in Michigan after stealing a semi-truck from a local business. A 16-year-old and a 14-year-old stole a truck on October 7th from Hudsonville, Michigan. According to the local news, employees were able to tell police the truck's location using a GPS tracker, but the teenage driver fled as soon as officers arrived. The driver then led police through rural areas of Allegan County and then north on 96th Avenue in Zeeland area after heading back east on Business Loop I-196. Yeah, they thought it was fun. Officers were eventually able to use spike strips to disable the truck, sending the rig veering off the road and into a residential neighborhood near 48th Avenue. Luckily, there was only minimal damage to property and no one was hurt. Both teenagers were taken into custody. 14-year-old was later released to their parents, but the 16-year-old was taken into the juvenile detention center. Have fun with that. And now a driver is charged with DUI after a second overturn in 2 months. A driver of a cement truck has been charged after rolling their truck for a second time in 2 months. This accident happened October 7th in Pittston, Maine. The sheriff's office reports that 39-year-old driver Corey Williams was driving the truck south along Route 27 when he veered off the road, rolling the truck onto the passenger side. Williams reportedly told police that he lost control on the curve. He was not injured in the accident, but officials say that this is the second time in the last 2 months that he has rolled a truck in this area of town. He's been charged with operating under the influence and illegal possession of Schedule W drugs, a classification that includes heroin, cocaine, oxycodone, and meth. You're driving one of them big cement trucks with the rolling barrel in the middle of it, and you overturn that puppy, you're lucky you didn't get killed. And now This episode of Julia's Trucker Cafe is brought to you by My Patriot Supply. As truck drivers, we all know what it's like to be at a shipper's or receiver's and have to wait to be loaded for hours on end. Am I right? Especially produce coolers and paper mills. That's why you need to be prepared with extra food in your truck, especially with the bad weather coming in, like it is over here in Kansas. Up in the Dakotas and Minnesota, 90 was shut down, Interstate 94 was shut down, along with 29. What are you going to do if there's no food and a truck stop was without power? That's why you need to stay prepared with My Patriot Supply. Now, it's not what you're thinking. My Patriot Supply is delicious emergency food. They have food kits that are good up to 25 years. They come in a slimline tote that you can easily store in your food pantry or under your bunk. I can speak from experience. After living through Hurricane Katrina, we were without power for 10 days, me, my mother, and son, and I. If it weren't for the MREs that were flown into us, we wouldn't have any food. There was 4 60-foot pine trees that broke in half during that storm and crossed my driveway and landlocked me in. That's when My Patriot Supply would have come in handy. If I knew then what I know now about My Patriot Supply, I definitely have some of this food stockpiled in my pantry. Now, for a limited time, you could get a 1-week supply of food in a handy and neat looking ammo can, like you see here, for just $39. Look at all that food you get. It's a week's worth of breakfast, lunch, and dinners, just for $39. How do you get it? Where do you go, do you ask? Well, I'll tell you. Just go to my website at juliastruckercafe.com, click on the emergency food supply tab, scroll down and click on any of the images to find out more information and get yours today. They even offer gluten-free food for under $100. Winter weather is here. What would you do if the interstate was shut down, just like I was talking about? You need to get My Patriot Supply and get it today. In this story, Colorado cops set up a commercial vehicle sting for truckers who avoid a state port. Back in Fort Collins on October 6th, local police in Colorado ticketed several drivers and placed several vehicles out of service during a portable point of entry enforcement. Fort Collins Police Department say that a portable port of entry was set up on Timberline Road at Nancy Gray, and that the location was chosen because of a high volume of trucks using Timberline for deliveries within the city. And commercial vehicles have been known to use this route to avoid the I-25 state port. Police said that 85 trucks went through the portable checkpoint. There were 17 brake inspections, 5 of which resulted in vehicles being placed out of service for critical brake violations. There were a total of 35 motor vehicle violations found during 16 level 1 inspections. And officers also issued 21 citations to commercial motor vehicles which failed to seek the port, which is required by law. You have to go through the port of entry. There's no running around it. You can't be running around the scales. You shouldn't be. But the port of entry, you need to go through it. Now, being placed out of service, for any of you new drivers, that you're shut down until the problem is fixed and you're not moving, and that means the load is late. Now, the different levels of inspections: level 3 is just paperwork, level 2 is pretty much just the lights and the exterior and stuff, level 1 is the most drastic one. They check everything and they will hold you there and check everything. They check under the hood, they check under the trailer, they check under the truck, they check the steering, they check the brakes, they give it a full pre-trip inspection like we're supposed to be doing every day. So if you're new to the trucking industry, this is for the newbies. Those are the different levels of truck inspections. And an Illinois trooper says, "I got your back, driver," after a tricky turn. A trooper with the Illinois State Police took a moment to let a truck driver know that she saw him or her being careful to doing everything they could to take a tough turn safely. Back October 8th, Trooper Tracy Lillard addressed an encounter she had with a semi-driver on the Sydney slab. She posts the highlights and briefly touching a moment during which a law enforcement officer and a professional driver helped each other out to stay safe. I'll read it right eventually. "Dear semi-driver on the Sydney slab, I saw your turn signal. I saw you slow down. I knew you needed to turn right, yet when you were clear, you swung out in the other lane to make your turn. I get it. I saw the line of vehicles behind me stacking up. I watched them in my mirrors. I also watched you. I knew you had a right turn and you may or may not have been loaded full of corn or beans. I stayed back to give you plenty of room to maneuver. I didn't see what farm you worked for, but I knew you probably are a local. Thanks for being safe, cautious, and using your signals. I hope others see signals on big trucks and realize they make wide turns. Really, really wide turns. I got your back, driver. Stay safe out there. Sincerely, a semi-driver's daughter." This post was liked more than 3,000 times, and many commenters were grateful for her positivity. And, sorry for the delay, a car driver ruins a trucker's day by pulling off the shoulder without looking. A motorist's ill-timed merge onto the roadway caused a crash and some consternation for the driver that was shooting the dash cam video that you can view on my website. And up next, a military veteran helps save a trapped trucker from a fiery fate. A trucker's life was saved thanks to 3 passing motorists who arrived in the nick of time. This happened October 2nd in Madison, Florida, around 1:30 in the afternoon. According to Florida Highway Patrol, a semi-truck hauling peanuts was heading westbound when it veered off the roadway and onto the east shoulder, continuing along the shoulder for around 200 feet before striking a concrete culvert and overturning. Then the rig caught on fire. Before emergency responders could respond to the scene, Sean Stevens and Jeffrey Webb were driving by when they noticed the burning truck, so they sprung into action. Stevens called 911 and was informed that the truck driver was still inside the vehicle, so the 2 men decided to take the rescue into their own hands. Stevens stayed on the phone with EMTs, and Webb and another passerby already on the scene went over to the semi-truck and were able to free the injured truck driver from the cab. Just as they were dragging him to safety, a small explosion further engulfed the cab. The truck driver was then transported to a nearby hospital with only minor injuries, including cuts to his head. Webb said, "I was in the Army and I was told never to leave a fallen soldier." Even if he's not a soldier, you help who you can when they are in need. I'm not really looking for publicity for what I did. I just want the people of Madison to know that I'm a good person, and if I see someone in need I can help, I will do what I can. We are a close community and we will do what we can to help, Stevens added. So congratulations to Mr. Webb and Mr. Stevens. And in this story, multiple truck crashes reported on Louisiana I-10 as Hurricane Delta bore down on the state. The Louisiana State Police reported several semi-truck crashes on I-10 as Hurricane Delta headed toward the Gulf Coast. It made landfall on Friday evening, but heavy rain and tropical storm force winds have already been reported in Louisiana and Texas. Louisiana State Police reported multiple truck crashes that day on Interstate 10 as the interstate was being used by many who were evacuating. Friday morning, an overturned truck was reported on I-10 West at mile marker 31B in Lake Charles. After this crash, Louisiana State Police shared a photo of the truck in the I-10 media along with a warning to avoid unnecessary travel and flooded roadways. Early Friday afternoon, troopers reported another crash on I-10 at mile marker 31B. Troopers didn't provide information on the injuries of the truck crash. And a month-long 224-mile detour started on I-15 in Arizona back in October. So that's pretty well... It just ended November 13th. The Arizona Department of Transportation advised drivers traveling between Mesquite, Nevada and St. George, Utah to plan ahead for delays through the Virginia River Gorge. Due to Virginia River terrain and the narrow width of I-15, crews must reduce the width of the travel lanes. This will cause wide load trucks to use a detour through the construction zone. All vehicles wider than 10 feet must exit use the detour. And a new law will fine truck drivers for parking on right-of-ways in Orange County. This is in Orange County, Florida. A new law banning commercial vehicles from parking on right-of-ways in Orange County will go into effect. It has went into effect here in November. The change comes after residents in mixed-use neighborhoods complained about big rigs and large trucks parking along the street. Commercial trucks are currently banned from parking in residential areas, but it's still legal in mixed-use neighborhoods. I don't know what that means. Residents of the neighborhoods told the local news that they witnessed drivers get dropped off and picked up at their trucks as a way to avoid paying for parking elsewhere. Residents also said that the rigs were an obstruction to view and could decrease their property value. A recently approved law will have drivers face penalties for parking along any unincorporated county road right-of-way. In other words, don't be parking on the shoulder of the road. The county have been passing out pamphlets to warn drivers of the change that will go into effect the 1st of November this month. You could expect a $150 fine per day if they catch you parking on the shoulder of the road. But if you got all kinds of money to waste, you can always donate to the show. If you enjoy my show, you could always go on to Patreon and make a monthly donation of $3, $5, or $10 to help support the show. Just saying. And up next, a collision with a train leaves a tractor on one side of the tracks and the trailer on the other. This happened in Illinois, October 6th. According to the local news, the truck was attempting to cross at a private railroad crossing on Route 3 when the collision occurred, leaving the cab of the truck on one side of the tracks and the trailer on the other. Troopers speculate that the 24-year-old truck driver underestimated how long it would take the truck to get going and across the tracks with a fully loaded trailer. The driver told officers that he was unable to see the oncoming train clearly due to trees that obscured the view. Luckily, no one was injured. There is a stop sign at the railroad crossing, but no lights or crossing arms. The driver has been cited for failure to stop at a stop sign. And in this story, a trooper's traffic stop leads to a slowed traffic and a man is fatally ejected from his vehicle. And this happened in Michigan because they got to pull somebody over on the shoulder of the interstate next to a guardrail where there is no room to frickin' pull over. Oy, a man lost his life in Michigan after a chain reaction crash led to collision with a semi-truck. This happened October 8th in Lansing. Michigan State Police report that 22-year-old Michael Barber was traveling north along Highway 127 when traffic in the right lane began to slow due to a trooper's traffic stop. Barber then rear-ended another vehicle in a minor collision, but was promptly struck from behind by a semi-truck, unable to stop in time. The force of that collision ejected Barber from his vehicle, killing him immediately. No other injuries were reported. Preliminary investigation indicates the cause of all the crashes was a violation of basic speed law, unable to stop in assured clear distance. The investigation continues. No, the problem was don't be pulling somebody over next to a goddamn guardrail on the side of the interstate. That's the problem. I see it too many times with officers. And in this story, feds find $7 million worth of drugs disguised as medical supplies. Now, they're even trying that. Border Patrol says that this was the second largest meth bust along the southwest border in the history of the agency. Officers with the Border Patrol recently seized more than 3,000 pounds of drugs. The drug bust occurred just before 10 o'clock in the morning on October 9th in Otay Mesa Cargo Facility in San Diego. Border Patrol says a truck entered the facility from Mexico with a manifest indicating that it was hauling medical supplies or bill of ladings. The truck was referred for, of course, a secondary inspection. They're always going to do it using dogs and x-rays. The K-9 unit alerted to the shipment in the truck. Officers unloaded the shipment and discovered 1,816 boxes commingled with medical supplies that primarily contain clear plastic pipette tips, spray bottles of surface decontaminant, and calibrated pipette tools. Border Patrol says that the packages contained 3,014 pounds of meth, 64 pounds of heroin, 29 pounds of fentanyl powder, and almost 37 pounds of fentanyl pills, worth an estimated $7.2 million. The truck driver is a Mexican citizen, 47 years of age. He was arrested and handed over to Immigration and Customs. Border Patrol said that this was the second largest meth bust along the southwest border in the history of the agency. The massive seizure is a testament of what law enforcement agencies can do when we combine forces. Blah, 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 blah. And in this story, a trucker survives a spray of bullets in a hijacking attempt. A chilling video of a truck driver ducking to dodge a spray of bullets has gone viral. In the video, you see him driving down the highway. He suddenly ducks and you see bullets blowing out the trucker's side window and windshield. Miraculously, the driver dodges the bullets and keeps the truck on the road. And in some better news, a new state-of-the-art truck inspection facility opens for business in Texas. I don't know if that's better news or not. The Texas Department of Public Safety, or DOT, announced the opening of a new truck inspection facility equipped with $1 million worth of technology designed to detect violations. So remember how when we're running Texas, if you're ever running a lot of Texas, they never had inspection stations? Well, they do now. Texas DOT announced the new facility opened October 8th at mile marker 620 on Interstate 10, east of Seguin, Texas. In a news release, they state that it's the most state-of-the-art truck inspection facility in Texas. Yeah, because they don't have any. They feature a 4-lane awning for trucks to pull under for initial screening. Those that pass the screening will be allowed to continue, while those that don't will be subjected to additional inspections. They have a weigh and motion sensor, an over-height detector, a pit for troopers and inspectors to more easily inspect brakes, linings, and other items underneath the truck, a 90-foot platform scale, the only one like it in the state, hazardous materials placard and carrier identification sensors, connected to a computer database that identifying credentialing, violation history, and if the vehicle is under a federal out-of-service order. A thermal imaging array examines the truck's wheels and brakes for abnormalities, such as defective brake linings. This is a one-of-a-kind facility, will benefit the trucking industry throughout the state of Texas and beyond. No, it's going to benefit the Texas government in getting more revenue. Let's be real. And promote safety for everyone, according to Director Stephen McCraw. Facility will quickly and efficiently get commercial vehicles back on the road while helping put dangerous trucks out of service on this busy stretch of highway between San Antonio and Houston. Well, I could say something, but I won't. But anyway, because I just fussed at everybody about not going around the scales, so I'm not going to say anything. And starting in October, new exit numbers are coming to the Massachusetts highway. They're renumbering all Massachusetts. Starting in the middle of October, they'll be getting a project to change highway exit signs from the current sequential exit numbering to a mile marker-based exit numbering system, just like New York did. Massachusetts DOT says that the new system will be more driver-friendly and will make for easier navigation for emergency responders. The DOT says that new exit signs will include the old exit numbers for at least 2 years to help drivers get used to the change. Exit numbers for Route 213, I-291, and I-391, and the lower connector will not be changing due to the length and spacing of exits. The project is scheduled to continue during off-peak traffic hours through the summer of 2021. I greatly appreciate each and every one of you who tune in to listen to me each week here on the cafe. If you wouldn't mind, please subscribe using the link below, or on CloudHub, please subscribe at the top of the page. I greatly appreciate each and every one of you tuning in. As I said, please, if you wouldn't mind, stop in if you're on Facebook and give us a like on Facebook. Also join our discussion group at Julia's Trucking Cafe Regulars. And if you wouldn't mind, subscribing to our newsletter at juliastruckingcafe.com/newsletter. So thank you so much for tuning in, and until next time. You have been listening to Julia's Trucking Cafe Truckin' News Hour. Check us out on Facebook and Twitter. Take care. Have a blessed day.